All right. Hey, Drew. It's very awesome to see you here. It's our first episode of our podcast. We're going to be talking mostly about movies here and what got you into it. And so, first question that I have for you. So, is there a specific movie that got you into the movie industry?
Like as a inspiration or as a like my first job or something.
Yeah, as an inspiration that you
Ah,
saw that you wanted to create.
well, I would say it's a tough question. I would say that outside of being a child and like the movies that you grow up watching, like Star Wars and Back to the Future and those types of really popular movies that get you excited about film, I would say around um, there was a time when a whole bunch of movies started coming out that really opened my eyes to that made me want to get into industry. I would say Train Spotting was one of them. I would say Fight Club was another. Those were the two probably big ones that really made me want to get into movie making.
Yeah, and coming to the Fight Club, right? So the thing that I noticed when I was watching a Fight Club, it was mostly critiquing the time, and it came out in 1999, and it came out with a very different movies such as American Beauty
Mm-hmm.
and as well as Matrix. And a big consequence is that all of those movies they're critiquing very regular life and routine. Was there something specific that you found in those movies for you?
All three.
I mean, in Fight Club specifically.
Fight Club specifically had a very great notion to me about like counterculture, right? Which was it's something like you don't have to be part of the norm. You don't have to be part of the mass society. Consumerism is a huge theme in Fight Club, and trying to be an individual, right? If it like a big comment about Fight Club in my mind, well, there's lots of commentary, social commentary that it has for all sorts of walks of life. And to me, what strikes a connection is that we struggle because we are bombarded with advertisements and capitalism and consumerism and all of that. That's not something that really appeals to me. I'm much more like an individual. I like to think of myself as somebody who likes to think his own way. And that's a really important part of that movie to me. And like, yes, so thematically, the plot, the story, it really talks about kind of defying some of those themes.
Yeah. And how old were you when you first watched Fight Club?
Oh, that's. I think I was in college, so I was like in my 20s.
Did it give you like some motivation to go and do some unordered things and like join some community, you know?
I see what you're getting at. No, I didn't want to start a fight club. I didn't like want to get involved in one, but it did make me think about what I should be doing spending my time. And this is back to your first question about how I got filmed. It's like I wanted to tell stories that maybe weren't normally told, right? I wanted to tell unique things, original things. I at least wanted to be a part of that. I didn't want to just go through life like a zombie
Yeah.
and do what I was told.
Yeah. And how do you think? And do you think that it was a coincidence that those three movies, such as Matrix and American Beauty and Fight Club, they all were made like by relatively new directors compared to Scorsese and Kubrick? Do you think it was like a coincidence that all of them came out at the same year critiquing the same theme?
No, I don't think it's a coincidence. If you go through movie history, you'll always see like these waves of storytelling and kinds of techniques and strategies and all sorts of things. I'm sure at that period they wanted a new voice. The audiences were needing to see and be told different things. Not that something that they're used to. I mean, any decade you can probably find a handful of filmmakers and a handful of films that kind of represent that decade. I think then that's a good starting point for that era.
Yeah, I also think it's very interesting how all of those directors they like came to those are completely different directors came to the same conclusion and they made movies with the same theme, you know? And so the next movie that I wanted to talk about is The Graduate. It's very interesting because there is this thing that the main character, he just like flows by
Yeah.
his life,
Yeah.
right? And that he doesn't really, after he graduates, he doesn't really know what he wants to do in his life, you know?
Yeah.
Did you feel kind of the same? Do you feel any connection to you within this movie?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm out. A lot of the films that I like, I connect with the main character. So yeah, I would say, as a young person, I definitely felt like I was like looking for direction. I was floating through life, that sort of thing. Sometimes even now, with a very successful career in life, and kind of, I sometimes still feel like I float sometimes. But really, the the character in that movie was less of the draw for me. For me, it was the cinematography and the editing. Like I love this story where he's this young, either just out of college. I think he was just at the graduate. He just graduated, and he's trying to find love, and he's trying to figure out himself. That's kind of a universal thing I think we all share. But what also blew me away about that movie was, oh, you could put the camera here. You could frame it this way. The composition is like this. You could edit it like this. When I started, that was like seeing like a master class, but like right in my face about how to do things in a unique way.
Yeah, it's also very interesting because there's like a lot of things where they like use zooms that are very unregular for the classic filmmaking, and especially some of the production design is very interesting. There's like one shot that I remember when he comes in. There is like darts that are next to him,
Mhm.
and there's like six of them, and none of them are close to the center.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
they're like all over the place.
Yeah.
And there's like a lot of those references in the movie. I
Sure.
found it very interesting. And also, do you think that many people are just like the main character, that they floating and they kind of, especially the young generation, do you think they kind of find themselves in this place as well?
Yes, I think definitely in The Graduate, a lot of young people connect with that character, trying to find direction, trying to figure themselves out. I think the best movies find a way, even with a really unique character on the outside, find a way to connect universally with their audience, with their main characters. If you don't have that, it's really hard to draw an audience in. So you have to find universal connectable themes at some point, and I think The Graduate does an awesome job of that. It's very obvious.
Yeah. And coming back to the young generation, what would you say would be your main advice to get to the big productions, especially with our industry, very competitive?
I mean, my advice to young people trying to get into a successful career in the film industry, we could probably do a separate podcast on that alone. But I would say like the main thing is that you have to know that it's a grind. It doesn't happen overnight, so you have to be dedicated. You have to be always professional because every job that you have, let's say you get on a crew, it's an audition for the next job and the next job and the next job. You are only as good as your last job. So you have to keep working, make connections. So it's professionalism, it's reliability, it's drive is a huge one. You have to be driven to go there. There's no perfect answer. Like there's no formula to say if you do these things, then you're going to automatically have a successful career. It's a great starting point, but you never know 100% how it's going to go, and you have to be willing to take those leaps of faith.
Yeah. Do you have those moments when you like sometimes you feel like burned out and why am I doing this thing? And then you watch some movie and it just completely inspires you and like, oh, yeah, okay, that's why.
Definitely. That's a great question because I think so. My career in the film industry was about 10, almost 11 years long, based out of New York. And some like some movies, some TV shows, some commercials, they can last as people who have heard about this before, they can last like 12, 14, 16, 18, 20-hour days, and then you get no sleep and you got to do it again tomorrow, and then you do it for a month long. Sometimes, you can get burnt out physically and mentally very quickly. So how do you stay up? How do you stay into it? Sometimes it's the jobs themselves are great. Sometimes the people that you work with are great. But when you are kind of feeling yourself burnt out, there have been times when, you know, you have that break, you put on a movie or a TV show and you're like, oh yeah, that was great. Like, and you get excited about contributing that and onto that.
Yeah. And have you made like some movies just for fun with your friends around, like just for free and to hang out with your friends around?
So when I was a lot younger, we did that. I made all sorts of, you know, comedy and, you know, sort of skit films with my friends for free, no budget. You know, we kind of did that sort of thing. But when I got to college and grad school, I tried to take it a lot more seriously. And I think it doesn't mean you can't have fun on set, but you want to be professional and you want your art to be on another level rather than just a skit, like free stuff. So I tried to pay everybody when I could. I tried to raise funds. I tried to do all that. So yeah, I mean, it kind of went on a roller coaster. But you start making those free films and those things, and then you start to figure out how to make art professionally and a little bit better.
Yeah, because from some things that I've heard from some other guys, they said that once you cross the line and once you get paid for your art that you create, like your feelings about it kind of change, and you know, it is maybe someone would have a fear that once they get paid for what they truly want to do, the desire and the whole excitement is gonna go away, you know?
I understand that. I've heard that argument before. Let me clarify though too. Just because I might be trying to raise money to pay my crew doesn't mean that I'm getting paid. So that's a big distinction, right? I want to compensate the people that are devoting their time to me in a professional manner, even if I'm not getting paid. So I'm still going to be inspired to do art and make it one way or another. And then let's say somebody, usually you only get paid after the fact anyway, right? You get your film into a film festival, you're still broke, you're still or maybe you're in debt and you're waiting for money to come in. You might not see that money for months or years later. So I think it takes a while. I think it's hard to remove the inspiration even after you get paid for the first time, for the 15th time. It's hard to just eliminate that with money.
I agree. Was there some maybe negative experiences that you have gone through during like the filmmaking process?
Yeah, I won't lie. There's been plenty of negative experiences on set or with certain people. It happens. You work with so many different people over the years. You're bound to find people you don't get along with and situations you don't want to be in. I could talk about, I mean, the list is pretty large, but it's not as large as the good experiences that I've had. So just make that clear that I've had way better experiences in the film industry than I've had bad ones. I would say that I've been put into positions that might have been dangerous for my personal safety. I've had bosses like producers and directors and people that I really didn't like because they didn't respect anybody else on that crew who was trying to help them make that project great. They were so arrogant or they had a huge ego and they didn't care about things. So I could talk all sorts of things about those types of stories. I've witnessed a lot. I've been a part of a lot.
Would you think you would erase those emotions and memories if you had an option to?
That's a really tough question. I'm just not the type of person to say, I wish I could take that out of my life because then I wouldn't be here. Like I wouldn't be where I am. That you have to know, I think, as a human being, as a person, that every step of your life contributes to where you are now. How do you take that, right? If I took out those bad experiences, I wouldn't be teaching you right now. We wouldn't be having this great conversation. So I don't know if I would take that away.
That's true. The reason I asked that question is the movie that you also noted as one of your favorites is uh, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, and it argues a very interesting topic is, would you really want to erase the negative emotions that you and memories that you had in the past? Would you take that choice? And it's very interesting how it develops. And as you said, every action in your journey is ending up to your own person, and all experiences are matter. And there is not an end goal, and also the goal is to enjoy as much as you can, right? And one of the quotes that is from Eternal Sunshine by the Spotless Mind is that the blessed are the forgetful, for they get the better even of their blunders. What do you think of that?
Well, say it one more time.
Blessed are the forgetful, for they get the better even of their blunders.
Right. So it's a comment on blissful ignorance. That's the two words that you get there, right? If you're not aware of your pain, then you're happy. If you're not aware of what's happened to you, like, then you're fine. You can float through life. Maybe that's a connection with The Graduate in a way, where you float through life and you're not really accepting all of these things. Sure, you can be happy, but you're not paying attention to what's around you, the pain that's happening to maybe friends, family, all of this, not necessarily even to yourself. So do I agree with that? I mean, if you're blind to it, then maybe you're a little happier, but I think you're a more full person if you accept your ups and downs and all the things that happen with life. You have to have pain to understand passion and vice versa. It's the only way it works. If all you know is this happy flat line, you don't know what could be better without knowing what's down here.
Yeah. Between the highest peaks, there are the deepest valleys.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what do you think helps you on the hard days and when you're like down there?
Just in general?
Yeah.
Personally, for me, on a down day, we all have them, right? That's a universal theme, right? That's a universal film theme. Just know that there's two things that really help me. If I focus on the day itself and the small wins I can get in that day, can usually break me out of that mood. Sometimes it's at the job, like I'm a teacher, so sometimes if I say something or show something to a student that really impresses them or really gets them excited about the class or filming or any of that, that gets me excited and can bring me out of maybe a low point that I'm feeling that day. Also knowing that it's just today, it's just a bad day. Like tomorrow, the hope of tomorrow being better is always there, right? It can always be an improvement.
Yeah. Does it discourage you sometimes looking at that some people just like don't really respect film in a way?
I don't know. Can you go further, because I don't know if I would agree.
So I know that you're teaching a class, and maybe there is sometimes that students that don't really respect and not really into film, and maybe sometimes you see that they don't understand something. Do you get discouraged, or do you have some sort of a feeling like this?
I mean, this is a good one. I mean, I could go in a whole bunch of sort of different ways with this, but I would say this isn't a school where they picked necessarily to be here. Some people did, but some people didn't, right? Sometimes they got put here and they treat this as school. I've gotten over that false ideal that all students want to be sitting there like this, like big smiles on their face and attentive to what I have to say. I wish that could be, but it's not the truth. It's not universal. So I don't get offended anymore if maybe, especially one day, that some kids aren't getting it. I still try. And think about it on the flip side. If if that same kid or that same student on one day who's not connecting with me, I connect with later that week in a different class, then I'm up, right? Then you're grinding, you're constantly working on it, and you're constantly trying to improve.
Yeah.
It can be discouraging on that day. That might contribute to a low day for sure. I wish sometimes, yeah, have I had thoughts like, wouldn't it be easier for me to teach college where everybody wants to go to that film school, everybody wants to be in that room, and my skills can apply? Sure, someday that'd be easier. But I also might not get as much of that reward or might connect with people who normally wouldn't get that opportunity. So I love that peaks and valleys too, right? So sometimes you're going to have that low day and just pulling those students along or that class, sometimes changing on the fly, going on a plan one way and then saying, you know what, I'm going to change it up, guys. We're going to do something completely different. And if that works, that's magic. That's magic in the classroom.
There's also, like, as you said, there's lots of exciting moments, right? When some student looks very inspired by films, and where you see how young people in such a young age already trying to recreate something very great, you know?
Yeah.
And coming back to the Fight Club, I have some very interesting quotes that I had some questions.
Mm-hmm.
So one of them.
I love this, by the way. I'm sorry. Because this is the film nerd in me, so I really dig this.
Yeah. So one of them is, without pain, without sacrifice, we would have nothing.
Right? Isn't that what I just said a little bit? Like, we need some of that. It's a different context when I think that is being said, right? It's talking about hitting rock bottom in your life so that you know that you can grow to be something like almost like a phoenix rising again, reinventing yourself completely. I don't know if you have to hit rock bottom to do that, right? So I don't think that's quite what I would take away from it, but understanding that life comes with pain. Sometimes you do have to put yourself, a leap of faith can be a sacrificial leap because you're trying to figure out, you don't know what's going to happen. So putting yourself out there, experiencing that can ultimately help you grow as a person.
Yeah, so one of them is that very similar quotes, and it's very great how it discovers this rock bottom. And one of them is, of course, it's only after we've lost everything that we're free to do anything, right? And I think it's just, maybe for some people it could be scary that to gain freedom you have to lose everything. So maybe, do you think there is a way for you to break free, I would say, without losing everything?
Yes, absolutely. So let me preface this, because as much as I love Fight Club, I don't want people to treat this like a Bible, like a code, right? It isn't law. It says a lot of great things and a lot of thought-provoking things, which I think is the key. It should make you think, but it shouldn't be treated as this is the book that I follow, right? I think you could start over, you can reinvent